Imagine a world where Europe's NATO members had to defend themselves without US support. What would that look like? The United States has been a cornerstone of NATO since its inception in the mid-20th century. Its role is not only as a member, but also as a leader, providing both military might and strategic guidance. The US has always been steadfast in its commitment to the collective defense clause at the heart of NATO, a commitment that has been vital in maintaining peace and stability in Europe. Let's take a look at the recent deployment of US troops to Poland, Germany and Romania. President Joe Biden authorized this in response to concerns over Russia's military buildup near Ukraine. These troops were not intended to engage Russian forces or enter Ukraine, but rather to support NATO allies in Eastern Europe. This action underlines the key role the United States plays in the alliance. Furthermore, the US frequently sends troops to Europe for exercises and defense agreements with NATO allies. These deployments are not so much about combat readiness, but about demonstrating commitment and solidarity. They send a clear message to potential aggressors. An attack on one is an attack on all. The NATO response force, a 40,000-strong multinational force, remains on standby. This force, in which the US plays a significant role, acts as a deterrent, a rapid reaction capability, and a clear demonstration of the alliance's collective will. All these actions highlight the importance of the US in NATO. The American influence in the alliance has been instrumental in shaping the strategic landscape of Europe since World War II. It has helped Europe maintain a balance of power and has deterred potential conflicts, contributing greatly to the relative peace the continent has enjoyed for over 7 decades. The US undoubtedly plays a central role in NATO, but what if that were to change? The looming threat of a Russian invasion in Ukraine has sent shockwaves across the globe. The very fabric of international relations and global security is being put to the test as we speak. With the spectre of conflict hanging over Eastern Europe, concerns have been raised over the build-up of Russian forces on the Ukrainian border. The numbers are staggering. Estimates suggest there are around 95,000 troops within striking distance. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov hasn't minced his words when it comes to the potential consequences of a Russian incursion. He warns of a bloody massacre, a chilling phrase that paints a grim picture of the devastation that could ensue. But it's not just the immediate threat of violence that's causing alarm. The ripple effects of such an invasion could be far-reaching and catastrophic. We're talking potential refugee crises, disruptions to food supplies, and a seismic shift in the balance of power in the region. Now let's consider how these developments could impact Europe's NATO members. The United States, traditionally a stalwart ally and defender in the face of aggression, has been somewhat reticent in committing troops to the region. This has led to speculation that the European members of NATO might have to hold the fort without US boots on the ground. In a world where the US might not be as forthcoming with its military support as it has been in the past, European NATO members are being forced to consider a future where they stand together, shoulder to shoulder, against potential threats. And with the current situation on the Ukrainian border, that future might be closer than any of us would like to think. The potential for conflict has never been more real, and the need for a strong defence is paramount. So, how are Europe's NATO members preparing to defend themselves? In the face of potential conflict, Europe's NATO members are indeed not sitting idle. They're making substantial preparations, gearing up their military capabilities and establishing robust strategies for defence. When it comes to military capabilities, we're looking at a diverse range of powers. From the United Kingdom's formidable Royal Navy to Germany's technologically advanced Bundeswehr, these nations are equipped with their own unique strengths. They're not solely reliant on American firepower. Each member has been investing in their military, focusing on areas such as cybersecurity, intelligence, and advanced weaponry, to name a few. But it's not just about the size of the army or the sophistication of the weapons, it's also about strategy. Europe's NATO members understand that a strong defence is a well-coordinated one. They are working closely together, sharing intelligence, conducting joint military exercises, and even standardising military equipment to ensure seamless cooperation. Now, let's talk about aid. The European members of NATO have been clear in their requests for military equipment aid from allies. They understand the value of collaboration and mutual support. However, they've expressed a preference for material support over troops. This is a strategic move. They want to bolster their defences with state-of-the-art equipment and technology, rather than increasing the number of boots on the ground. This approach allows them to maintain control over their military operations while benefiting from the expertise and resources of their allies. In essence, Europe's NATO members are playing a high-stakes game of chess, carefully positioning their pieces and planning their moves. They're boosting their defense capabilities, honing their strategies, and fostering strong alliances. They're showing that they can stand strong, not just as individual nations, but as a united front. Europe's NATO members are certainly not taking this threat lightly. But what are the implications if the US were to step back from its role in NATO? That's the question that's been lurking in the minds of many, and the answer isn't simple or straightforward. The US has been a cornerstone of NATO, providing significant military and financial contributions. If the US were to retreat, it could potentially shift the balance of power in the region. It's not just about who fills the power vacuum, but how this change could influence the actions of other nations. Russia, for instance, might see a US-less NATO as a weaker alliance and may feel emboldened to exert its influence more aggressively in Eastern Europe. This could escalate tensions and potentially lead to conflict. On the other hand, Europe might rise to the occasion, bolstering their military capabilities and becoming more self-reliant for their defense. This could lead to a more unified and stronger Europe, capable of standing up to external threats independently. However, the road to such self-reliance isn't without its challenges. Increased military spending could strain the economies of many European countries, and the need for greater cooperation could expose deep-seated political divisions. Then again, there are opportunities to be seized. A US-less NATO could encourage European nations to deepen their collaboration, not only in defence but also in other areas, fostering a stronger, more integrated Europe. Furthermore, it could potentially open up space for other global players to step in and contribute to the stability of the region. For example, countries like Canada or Australia might increase their involvement and support for NATO in the absence of the US. In conclusion, a US-less NATO could potentially reshape the political and military landscape of the region. It's a scenario filled with both challenges and opportunities, and only time will tell how the nations involved will adapt and respond. So, what does the future hold for NATO? In the wake of these recent developments, the future of NATO could take on an entirely new shape. As Europe braces itself for the possibility of defending its territories without the direct military intervention of the United States, we might witness a shift towards a more self-reliant Europe. This evolution could mean a lot for the alliance. NATO, originally formed as a collective defense mechanism against potential Soviet aggression, could see a shift in its operational dynamics. European nations may need to step up, not only in terms of increasing their defense budgets, but also in taking on more strategic leadership roles within the alliance. This potential shift could lead to a re-evaluation of NATO's structure. The alliance might need to adopt more flexible approaches to cater to the diverse security needs of its members. This could include a stronger emphasis on cyber defense, counter-terrorism, and other non-traditional security threats. Moreover, as Europe moves towards self-reliance, NATO could also become a platform for fostering stronger European defense cooperation. While the United States will likely remain an important ally, the focus might shift to enhancing interoperability and cooperation among European members. The future of NATO could also be shaped by the geopolitical developments in Eastern Europe. The threat of Russian aggression, particularly towards Ukraine, could push the alliance to redefine its strategic objectives and strengthen its collective defense commitment. However, this future is not set in stone. It's contingent on a variety of factors, including political decisions, budget allocations, and the evolving security landscape. It's also dependent on the willingness of NATO members to adapt to these changes and the continued commitment to the principle of collective defense, which has been the bedrock of the alliance since its inception. It's clear that the future of NATO could be a very different one depending on how these events unfold.